1971, I put on my spacesuit, ready to fly to the moon. So this is Al Worden's portrait that I created, and again, I wanted to introduce the colors and have that color flow through the book.
Did you use pictures of him at that time to kind of get the face?
I did. He was an older gentleman too, and aviation ages people because of the stress that they're under with all the things that they have to do all at once. That is a natural stress agent, and they look very handsome, I think. When I'm trying to draw all these pilots, I'm like, yeah, that looks like a man. It doesn't look like a boy. So he always had a manly face. It never could get earlier. Some of them always had a boyish face, like Neil Armstrong. He always carried that same boyish face throughout his life. And that was very interesting, making his portrait through, it was still pretty much the same. So Al Worden, the image that I was able to get, I had to do a lot of interpretation here because there was a lot of reflection. You could barely see it since, the fishbowl reflection with all the lighting would just reflect that, and I had to interpret. And I think I did okay. And it wasn't easy because you had to keep some of the reflection to know that it is behind. So on the walkway, at the top of the enormous rocket, I gazed out to the ocean. I had a lot of fun creating this. There's 50 photos of other astronauts, and you had to make sure that it was designed still to what he had. And there were a lot of prototypes. So what was it that he was wearing to what was a prototype, or what was it on someone else? Each one is different. And you think all the Apollo 15 astronauts are the same. Oh no, they're not the same. So we had to create whatever I couldn't find. I had to fill in the gaps. But I think I did okay. There, of course, when you're done, you're like, yeah, I know what it is, but a lot of people don't, unless you're a historian, and you may know. So, a couple of hours later, inside our spaceship, on the top of the rocket, we launched into the sky. So this, of course, was a lot of fun creating this. A lot of detail here. This detail took a lot of time. And I would wake up and I said, okay, I'm just going to put the timer on for an hour. I gotta, because you're not making a lot of momentum through the drawing. I'm like, okay, I can only take it for an hour because it's a lot of detail. And I would use a ruler to make sure I got the lines pretty straight. And we didn't know if this would be a square book or would be a rectangular style. So basically, I designed it in all levels. So some of them were square, but you can always extract what the important part is if it would be different. And also, there would be enough blank space to put the words. So I designed it in such a way that it was very flexible for the publisher. And we changed publishers too. After Al passed away, we weren't even sure if it would be published. And a friend of his had picked it up, and he was a publisher. He publishes like 40 books a year. And I'm very grateful that he was willing to take the risk and publish this gorgeous book. And then it goes 3 minutes into flight, already dozens of miles high. The first stage separated from our rocket, and I can imagine how that felt. And we don't have any idea how that really feels, and the G's that they're feeling. But I am so excited about the commercial space industry. that a lot of people are going to be going into. It's like, I want to go through that. And as people are getting, as we know, as people are getting more and more interested, it'll get cheaper and cheaper. The first cost of anything, like the first car, the first airplane, that's expensive. And as we're manufacturing things, things get cheaper. So we go. So would I go into space yet?
I would.
I, I'll go in an airplane. I'll send my art to space.
Just don't upchuck when you're on the way up there.
Less than 12 minutes after leaving the launch pad, we were in orbit around Earth. So this is an image that was taken by an astronaut on the ISS, and I have his name on my website right now. It escapes me. And we had a whole bunch of space shuttle astronauts at Space Fest, and I don't have the artwork here. They said, "This is exactly what I see. This. I love this," and they would just reflect exactly what they see each time they're orbiting Earth. And I loved hearing the stories. And they wanted Francis French and Al Worden wanted specific images on each page, so that really reduced my portion. When it usually in any design, it's about 8, maybe 1/8. You want 1/8 of the time, but it consumes like 9/8, or if you look at it, let's say it's 10 months creating something, it eats like 8 months design. And then finally, when you figure it out, it's immediate. So this had to be created from scratch, and this had to be created completely from scratch. And I felt like I was pulling a rabbit out of the hat. And it took 8 months to design. And you can't shorten design. So
Was
these,
that working on it 1 hour at a time also?
no, no,
Maintain focus or?
not drawing it, designing it. It's like designing your house before you pour the concrete. You have to figure out what it is that you're going to be building. And you can't figure it out because it's like, I don't know what this is yet. And I like the results. I feel confident with the words that are reflected in the book. I'm like, yeah, a kid's gonna see the face. It's like, yeah, that's the expression of Al looking at the ocean below. So, sorry, I'm also pausing. It's not like a younger.
Does everybody know what Space Fest is? That's Space Fest. It's held at JW Marriott here in Tucson every year, where you can actually hobnob with all the astronauts. I personally met Michele over there, and I met a lot of the astronauts. One astronaut in particular, Hugh Gibson,
Who? Gibson.
is my buddy. We're buddies now.
And that's another book that we're creating with Hugh Gibson and Zarina.
Really?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
It's another one that's coming.
He actually gave me his business card. That's unbelievable.
So here's the moon. After making sure our spacecraft was working fine, we headed for the moon. Here's our pink moon. 4 days later, we neared our closest neighbor. My eyes are getting old. After reaching the moon, my 2 crewmates flew down to the surface while I stayed in lunar orbit all alone. And this is from the back side of the moon. I gazed out over the silent, barren surface. And this crater, I can't remember the name. It's a Russian name. And
Tchaikovsky crater? I think it's a Tchaikovsky crater.
It cascades 3,200 meters high. I wanted to create as if it would be the ocean around the crater. My husband's from Greece, so we did a lot of island hopping when we were dating. So I enjoy, trying to get the essence of how an ocean would have been if it ever would have been on the moon. Al Worden and Francis French, they were saying, you have all the artistic license. I'm like, yippee! And they loved my artwork. I'm like, yippee! That means I can create things from what I'm feeling that day. So these are Al's thoughts on Earthrise. So Earthrise, sometimes people would think that's the moon. It's like, no, that's a crescent of what the reflections are from the sun hitting on the surface of Earth. So this is the moon surface, and it's pink this time. And that's the Earth. So he says, and then breathtaking view, the Earth drifts majestically into sight. And suddenly the purpose is clear. Because we are not trying for a closer look at our faithful companion, the moon. We are sent far away to look back at our home, the Earth, to realize how beautiful and how precious and how fragile. The view cannot be duplicated from any vantage point anchored in the rocks of old. I see the world through newborn eyes. A lot of these astronauts, they would go into space and they would want to take care of spaceship Earth as we have it. Because right now, we haven't figured out how to live on other worlds yet. Still trying. And here's spacecraft. On the way back, I float out of our spacecraft and could see both the whole Earth and the whole moon just by turning my head. And no one so far has done the same, but we would like others to experience that. It's just a matter of time, we know that. And this is the splashdown. Notorious, the signature is that one of the parachutes did not fully, what's the word?
Deploy.
Deploy, thank you. I still think about the flight to the moon and the future of humanity. We do. So here are other images that were taken during his mission. And this is a photo that was taken by Mark Uziak. And very, very beautiful photo that he took of him. And I thank you for listening and enjoying. And this was great that it was made after Al passed away. And I'm very, very grateful for the publisher at Book Press Publishing to make this. And anybody can see this and find this online at www.astronautal.com. And if you have something, I can draw us also a little